Thanks, Paul. Right, welcome everyone. As Paul said, I'm Ray, and I'm going to take you through this Python project view of what Agile project management is. Hence, we've got our own little pub sign. Right, just a minute. Oh no, we've got some technical difficulty in that I can't move my slides on. Right, I can now. Sorry about that. Right. What we're going to do over the next 45 minutes is talk about Agile project management. I'll be talking about some of the myths around it. We'll be talking about Greek temples. We can be talking about snowmen and cheese and pizza. So yes, you might think, what on earth has that got to do with Agile project management? Well, it'll become clear. As I say, the questions and answers, if we can keep them to the end, then we can have a free session over that. So, Agile project management, yes, that's what we're all going to look like, bending over backwards to help people become very flexible. That's one of the key points behind Agile project management. That's why lots of organizations are moving towards it, because the old style of sort of waterfall idea of, yes, we need to know everything what you want at the beginning, and then as we go through it, life changes, things changes, and we've got problems towards the end, because whilst we delivered exactly what was asked for, it's not quite what's needed now. So we need a lot more flexibility. So as I say, we will talk through some of the myths around it, why you should be using it, what on earth is it, how you're going to make it work for you. I'm going to give you a couple of techniques that you can take away that you can try this afternoon and thereafter. So very simple, straightforward ideas that are embedded within Agile project management. And then also, how does this compare to Prince2? And then we'll round off with the qualifications that are available in this. Because this is supported by the Association of Project Managers Group International, there are a foundation and a practitioner exam, as you might expect. Right, let's have a look at some of the myths. There's no need for planning. Absolutely rubbish. I see some clients and they say, yes, we're doing Agile. We're following the Agile methodology. It doesn't exist. Agile is a way of thinking. It's a different way. So some organizations have taken it that they just dive in feet first and they just get on and they do stuff. They don't need a plan. We're doing Agile. Absolutely wrong. You still need a project plan. It doesn't matter which flavor of Agile you are looking at, whether it's DSDM, whether it's Scrum, whether it's XP, they still have plans. They might not be a huge Gantt chart. It might just be an agreement of people, and then that's what we're going to do today. But you still need to plan. There's a myth that we don't need to document everything, because the fear is that Prince2 and the like has got huge amounts of documentation. You know, we're talking war and peace here. We do need some documentation within an Agile project so that you can prove that's what we're trying to do. That's what the test plan said. We've proved it's correct, and the help desk needs some documentation at least. It's not valid for large projects. It is. There are huge, large projects out there, multi-million-pound projects out there that are using Agile way of thinking. It's not one huge Big Bang approach at the end. They're drip-feeding new ideas, new pieces of technology into their organizations bit by bit. So, again, you can't use Prince2? Yes, you can. For those of you who are Prince2 trained, you'll probably, or hopefully, recognize as the project manager hands out a work package to the team manager, that team manager then goes away and does their stuff. They do what they do best. So the team manager can quite happily use these Agile ways, these techniques, to deliver that work package. So Agile project management fits quite nicely inside a Prince2. So if your organization is very Prince2 centric and they need all the regulations, they need all the strategies behind it, you don't have to do one or the other. They can blend very happily. excuse me a minute. Right, there's no need for sign-off. Yeah, there is. Your customer needs to prove that they're happy with what's happening bit by bit. So we will be signing information off. No need for detailed, there is a need for detailed design. That's what's wrong. That's what's different now. We don't need to know everything up front. That's the old waterfall style idea. What we do need is an idea of where we're going. And we'll improve that. We expect change. Change will come along quite happily. We can cope with change. And the final myth is we can't do it in big government projects. Government projects are using this now. So the question is, are you buying more than you actually need? It's not quite like a shopping spree, but it's what do you want from a system, from an IT system, from a house, from an aircraft? It doesn't matter. What is it that you actually need? Now, lots of people come to this and say, I've got to have this, I've got to have that. Partly because of the historic reasons of if they didn't get it in phase one, then phase two never existed. So they put everything in the first phase. But the Standish Group had a look at IT projects, and what they came up with are these figures. So from all of these requirements that were supposed to be desperate, needed, business critical, 45% of them were never actually used when it came to the end result. It's only 7% that are always used. 13% are often used. So of 20% of what was deemed to be desperately important, it's only 20% that's really, really used. So what a waste of time and effort. So our Agile approach is going to be saying, look, let's not try and nail everything at the beginning because life is going to change. Let's get an idea where we're going. We'll develop it bit by bit. We'll have a prototype. Then you'll see, is that what I need? You've probably come across the saying, well, yes, I've got an idea what I want, and I'll certainly know it when I see it. That's the concept of we will have a prototype and we'll move it forward. And hopefully we'll stop wasting huge amounts of time on developing stuff that's never going to be used at the end. So what is Agile project management? The main driver behind this is to ensure that what we deliver aligns to the business need. So there's an implication there that the business strategy, the mission statement, that we know what that is, so that our Agile project can connect to it. Now, in the old traditional waterfall idea, there will be a plan. There will be some analysis. Your business analysts will get together. They will go and have a look, talk to the users, produce a beautiful plan, and then we'll design from that plan. Then we'll build it. Then we'll test it. Then we'll correct it. Then we'll test it again. Then eventually we'll deploy it. We'll go live. But let me stress, that is not Prince 2. Sadly, when I go into organizations, that's how they've implemented Prince 2. In Prince 2, you can quite happily deploy parts of your system at the end of a stage. I was one of the technical reviewers of the current Prince 2 manual, and lots of effort was put into making that point. Prince 2 can now be tailored. So Prince 2 is quite agile-ish. An agile way would be to do some analysis, to put a plan together. See, we do need plans. To then put a design together based on that plan. We then build and test. And we constantly build and test, build and test, build and test, build and test, all the way through, because there's a concept within Agile called fast fail. I want to know that this part of the engine of the car is going to work or fail before I slot it into the next one, before I connect the transmission, before I want to know as soon as possible whether it's correct. Then we'll deploy it. Then we think about the next part of our project. So we'll go back to the analysis, go back to the customers, talk it through. Based on what they've now seen from that first deployment, is that going to change your ideas? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. So we'll build a plan based on what's just gone live, plus the new ideas. So we'll then design, build and test, and then deploy. Now, in an old traditional waterfall style idea, the Big Bang approach, when you're 3/4 of the way through that type of project, nothing has actually been delivered to the client. Where in an Agile project, 3/4 of the way through, 50% of it has already been delivered. They're starting to reap the benefits. And that's one of the big pushes behind Agile project management. We have a faster return on investment. We can start reaping the benefits earlier. And that's why lots of organizations are taking up these ideas, because in today's modern world, we need much faster returns. So, what on earth is Agile? Agile itself is an umbrella term. There are different flavors of Agile. We talk about Scrum, we talk about Lean, there's extreme programming. Now, they were all IT focused. Their roots were in IT. Scrum is very good at what it was designed to do, which is the IT department saying, okay, tell me what you want. Fine, we've got a time box window. We will deliver it by the end of the month. Job done. Great. That's what it was supposed to do. DSDM, which stands for Dynamic Systems Development Methodology, that is business focused. So I can use elements of Scrum inside a DSDM project if I wish, and DSDM has taken some elements from Extreme as well. So the DSDM starts thinking about project management. It starts thinking about business case. It starts thinking about connection to a wider strategy. So it depends what level of information you want to use. Now, the rest of this session will be based on our DSDM methodology, because that's where the APMG's foundation and practitioner exams are based on. So that's the business focus. Now, what happened in 2001 was a whole group of the people got together are people who were suggesting, no, Scrum's best, and others were saying, you don't understand, Lean's better, and another group was saying, no, DSDM's the way. They all got together in Utah, a nice little ski resort, to say, look, let's sort this out. And they came up with what they call the Agile Manifesto. It says, we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. So they had this light bulb moment. And what they said was they would rather people come together. They would value people and interactions over processes and tools. So it's all very well that you got a Gantt chart. It's all very well that you're using Microsoft Project to produce all this stuff. But I'd rather people talk to each other. They would value working software over comprehensive documentation. There is no point having a huge amount of user manuals and detailed plans if the thing doesn't work. Who of you is going to buy a piece of software that doesn't work, keeps crashing? It's not going to happen. They want customer collaboration in the sense of we want the customer involved. There is a huge push in Agile to get the people who have commissioned the work actually physically involved. You're probably used to having user acceptance testing, and you get a few special customers in or champions from the customer to get involved. But if that's right at the end, just in the testing phase, you've missed out a huge amount, because we want to get them involved. Contract negotiation, there is an implication there that there's a winner and a loser. We're trying to get for that win-win situation where the customer is actually involved, because the customer's going to drive this. Finally, they want to recognize that change is happening. So we certainly want to respond to change rather than slavishly following the plan, because somebody might come up with a better idea. They might come up with a better way of dealing with this, so that actually that's going to save us some money. So that was the manifesto written in 2001. Now, it was interesting that last year at the DSDM conference, one of the people who signed up to this conference said, all of that is still working correctly. It's still valid, 12 years later. The only thing he'd change is working software to become working solution, because DSDM certainly these days is focused on delivering business benefits. It's not just the IT. It had its roots in IT, but these days it's about anything. So you can use Agile to have a marketing campaign. You can use Agile to organize a conference. You can use anything that's got a fixed date with a fixed time. A fixed date with a fixed cost. What we deliver might vary, but we'll always deliver a working solution. We'll always deliver something that's integrated, correct, and it works. So it's not just about delivering software anymore. Does it work? Well, back to the Standish Group. In 2012, they did a survey looking at IT projects, and sadly, for those that followed the waterfall idea of one big bang approach, only 14% were deemed to be a success, whereas in an Agile, 42% were deemed to be a success. So it's got different ways. So how are we going to do that? Right. Well, one of the ways is to think, right, what is it that we're actually going to deliver? In the old waterfall idea, features are key. Well, if you're going to obsess about features, then time and cost are just going to vary. They go out the window. You may have seen, well, I'm sure you have, your Grand Designs, Kevin MacLeod on TV, etc. People building their new homes, they absolutely obsess about features. They want the nice kitchen. They want the gold bathtubs. That's why they're never in, before Christmas. They're still living in the caravan, and the time has just disappeared. The cost has disappeared. In an Agile approach, what we're going to say is after we have done some planning, so you can't really pin this until you've done your project plan. After we've done the planning, then we will fix time and cost and quality, because we always deliver a working solution. What we agree might change are the features. Now, we're never going to deliver something that doesn't work, hence the quality is the green blob. What we will deliver, however, is something that the customer said is business critical. In projects, when I used to do acquisition projects or large IT projects, as if we had a deadline to hit, we always had to ditch scope in some way. All the bells and whistles and the nice to have never actually happened on the date. They were done later, which is exactly what we're talking about here. We will deliver on time and on budget. So I mentioned we were going to be talking about Greek temples. This is the Greek temple. It's a diagram from the DSDM manual. It's all about philosophy. The philosophy, as you can see in the diagram, is right at the top, the apex of the little Greek triangle. It's supported by 8 principles. It's supported by processes. There are people, there are roles that we'll be talking about. There are products. There are 17 management products within a DSDM project, and it's up to you whether you use all of them or some of them. And there are practices, some techniques that we're going to use. So it's all supporting the philosophy, and the basic philosophy behind this is that it's got to connect to the strategic goals of your organization. It's got to make sure that we deliver real benefits early. That's the point of having lots of little deployments. And the key stakeholders have got to understand that they're not going to get 100% of their shopping list, but they will get what they have deemed to be business critical. To do that, the team that's going to do this can make their own decisions, so they are empowered, which is a bit of a scary thing for some organizations, especially the old-style project manager who's like a command and control, and they will say, no, you will do what I say. I'm the project manager. It's a bit like The Apprentice. You've seen them already. That program's just started. No, I'm the project manager. You have to do what I say. It's not true. The team now is empowered to make decisions because embedded within the team are people from the customer side. So we have an instant view of the customer because they're sitting across the desk from you. They're in the same office. So the team's empowered to make decisions at the appropriate level. Maybe some of the higher strategic decisions will be taken by somebody else. We're going to collaborate to get to the right solution. We always deliver on time, and those stakeholders have got to be willing to accept. They're not going to get everything, but they will get something that works on time, on budget. What's not to love? It's great. So, I also said we'd talk about snowmen. This is a diagram from the SDM manual. It's not actually called the Agile Snowman in the manual. It's a term that I came up with because it looks a bit like a snowman. And certainly coming up to winter, I'm sure you'll be making loads of snowmen. Now, the idea, you've got a head and you've got the body. Now, in the head, you've got the business sponsor, and that's the person who's funded the project. You've got a business visionary. That's the person working with or for the business sponsor. Business visionary's got a more closely focused idea of what's going to happen in the business. You've got a technical coordinator. Now that is the specialist role. It could be a system architect, it could be IT director, someone who's focused on the technical elements of your project. And then you've got the project manager. Now you might notice, if you were to compare this with a Prince 2 structure, the project manager has now been promoted to the top table. They've been promoted to work alongside the business sponsor, which would be a Prince 2 executive, the business visionary, which would be a Prince 2 senior user, and the technical coordinator, which would be a Prince 2 senior supplier. So now those four are working together because the role of project manager is no longer one of facilitation, it's no longer one of day-to-day control of the project. It's one of facilitation because we have a team leader. Now that team leader working in the body of the project, they are coordinating all the work that everybody else is doing. They have built the team. They are an empowered team. They can make choices. They can make decisions. Their focus is to make sure that what's been asked of them is delivered on time and on budget. So within that team, we have a business analyst, and they are the connection between the business and the technical people. We've got a business ambassador. That is a role from the business. They're physically sitting in the same office, preferably. I know there's going to be some issues about location. Ideally, all of these people are co-located. They're all in the same place. We've got a solution developer. That's the person who's building whatever it is, and a solution tester. Yes, they are separate people, because you don't let your developers test their own work. Because, of course, it's going to work. They've written it. It's perfectly okay. So, no, we split those apart. Now, this doesn't have to be just IT. Let's say we're building a house. Your business ambassador could be the person who is hoping to move into the house. The solution developer could be the bricklayer, could be the joiner. The solution tester could be the planning officer who comes and makes sure that the foundations are perfectly correct. It doesn't have to be just IT. This model works for anything. Now, as the slide says, one person can have more than one role. So we don't have to have all of those blobs. They're not different people. So, yeah, the sponsor and the visionary might be the same person. The team leader and the project manager might. The thing is, you've got three different colours. You've got three different coloured blobs. The orange blobs are the business. The blue blobs are the management, and the green blobs are the technical people. Now, sitting outside of that, you've got the 2 feet, the DSDM coach and the workshop facilitator. That coach is a person who would come in as a bit of a guru and explain to the team, about this methodology. Make sure it's all going in the right direction. And a workshop facilitator is a person you would bring into a meeting. If you're having a meeting about risk, if you're having a meeting about scope, that person is an independent person that comes in and makes sure that everybody has their say, everybody signs up to the solution at the end. They're not steering to a given solution, they're independent. But they've got to make sure that a solution is agreed. I was working with a group earlier on this week, and they said, that's one of our failings. We all go to meetings, and then we think, that's really difficult. And they all agree it's really difficult, but then they leave it there. So they come out of the meeting thinking, we really don't know how to go forward now. A workshop facilitator would make sure that as everybody leaves, they've got a plan for the next step. They know what's going next. So the Agile project manager now, the role of a project manager is about enabling change rather than suppressing change. Because sometimes managers just want to keep the status quo. They are continually improving. So Agile has this idea of inspect and adapt, constantly learning new things. But we still got to go in the right direction. We might not know exactly how we're going there. And in the methodology, it talks about a comparison between a railway journey and a sail. So the railway has to go on certain tracks, has to go a certain way, but if you're in a boat, you might go in lots of different directions, but you'll still get to the same point. We've got to monitor the progress to see, are we on time? Are we on budget? Give me the confidence that everything is working well. So we've got to measure the progress. But progress is by the delivery of products. It's not about, I've done 20 hours this week, aren't I good? It's about what we actually achieved, what we delivered. That's the main. We've got to keep this high rate of progress going through. They've got to motivate the teams, and that's difficult. We've got to get this no-blame culture going on, which is a bit of a difficult thing sometimes. I'm coming across this term, a BMW meeting, which is bitching, moaning, and whinging. We don't want the finger pointing. We want to say we are a team. So let's solve it as a team. So we're building that team spirit. So that's the new role of the project manager now, because that body of the snowman, that team, they're empowered. Cheese and pizza. This is the loving name for this particular diagram. This diagram shows the processes. The DSDM calls them phases. They're the processes that we go through. So pre-project, somebody's had an idea. We then come into feasibility, and feasibility will work out, should we even attempt this? So embedded in that feasibility assessment is a thing called the outline business case. In a Prince 2 world, you probably recognize you've got an outline business case. So then that goes back to that head of the snowman, the sponsor, the technical coordinator, the business visionary, to then say, is it worthwhile? Should we commission foundations? If the answer is yes, they commission foundations. In foundations, that's where you set out all your strategies as, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to deal with risk? How are we going to deal with change? How are we going to deal with all of this managing of a project? What are the standards our coders are going to adhere to? There's a whole set of documents that you would need to create. Once you've got that agreed and signed off, then we go into exploration and engineering. Now, exploration is, what are the functional elements? What do we need to do? What's the features that we want to deliver? So customers got very heavy involvement in that. At the end of that, it'll be, okay, we now know that we want to order books from Amazon, or we want to process the monthly payroll, or we want a house, or we want a bridge. Now, when we go into engineering, the focus of engineering is to make those functions production ready. So, if we want to order things over the web, how do we take credit card details? Are they secure? How can we deliver it to the client? It's all the things that make it production ready. We're not adding to the scope in engineering. We're not adding features. We're just taking the features defined in exploration and making them work. Once that's done, we then deploy. So we go into deployment. Now in deployment, the focus there is how do we put it live? Have we got a backout plan? Have we trained the help desk? Have we got the documentation? Let's do it. Okay, we can deploy. Now we've got some other arrows on that diagram. In that deploy, you might say we've deployed that first increment. Now let's go and do increment number 2. So we'd bounce back to exploration and start working on exploration, then into engineering, then deploy, and then back. So you're constantly bouncing around the triangle of exploration, engineering, deployment. It might be in your deployment that you've uncovered something that fundamentally rocks what you've got to do, so you might need to go back to foundations and rewrite some of your strategies. That's okay. It's a learning exercise. The very final deployment is where we need to close down the project. We've done everything. It's all done, finished. Release the people from the team. Think, what did you learn about the project? And then in post-project, that's where the business sponsor and the business visionary will organise somebody else, not this team, organise somebody else to go and look at the benefits. Did this project actually bring the benefits that was expected? So aligning this to a Prince 2 environment, feasibility would be the same as starting up a project. Foundations is the same as initiating a project. Exploration is the same as controlling a stage and managing product delivery, as is engineering. It's just got a different focus. We do a bit of managing stage boundaries, and then finally we close down the project. So it maps very nicely. So if you're a Prince 2 environment, you could use these ideas, you can use these features, you can use some of this documentation, and you don't have to change your organization that much. So I promised you a couple of takeaways. We were talking about Moscow and stand-ups. Moscow is the technique. It's one of the 5 techniques within Agile project management, and it stands for must have, should have, could have, won't have this time. Now, the won't have this time is important. The must, that's what we guarantee. That's what the business has said is business critical. They will get that on time and on budget. The should, we expect, but there is a workaround. You know, we can go live with our new system without a should. It might be a little bit painful, but there is some workaround, and we might fix it in the next few weeks afterwards, but it wasn't bad enough to stop the entire project. A could have is, yeah, hopefully we will do some could haves as well, but they're the bells and whistles. They're nice to have. And won't have this time means it's out of scope for this particular framework. Now, what that means is I can Moscow at project level, I can Moscow at increment level, I can Moscow at time box level. So if I give a piece of work to somebody, I give them a time box of which to do it inside. If they don't do it by the end of the time box, if it was only a should or a could, I'm not too worried. If it was a must, I would be worried. But we've got a mechanism for handling that. So it's not that it won't ever happen. It just won't happen in your time frame. So it's okay to have something in the early part of a project that's not going to happen. It doesn't mean to say they're never going to get it. It might be done in phase 3 or phase 4. The idea is that the users, the philosophy, again, the users must accept this philosophy that they will get must-haves on time, on budget. they don't get 100% of their shopping list. Otherwise, they're back to the first triangle, where scope was key. And if you're going to fixate on scope, then time and cost are going to have to change. It'll take as long as it takes, and it'll cost as much as it costs. We're back to the grand designs type programs. But if you've got a date for your party, if you've got a budget for your party, you will deliver on time. But you might not have all the party bags, you might not have all the nice little things, but you will have something that works. You will have your party. So, Moscow technique. You've seen it in Prince 2 as well. This is taking it and expanding slightly. Now, daily stand-up, as it says, they happen every day. This is where the team gets together, preferably in the morning, first thing in the morning, to say, okay guys, what did you do yesterday? What do you intend to do today? What problems have you got that are stopping you from what you need to do today? So it's an opportunity for everybody to listen to progress. The key to making this work is that the team leader would make sure this happens, that they limit people to 2 minutes. 2 minutes per person, because the average team is about 7 people. So we're really talking no longer than 15 minutes in the morning, and then everybody goes off and starts doing their job. There is a danger that people will start saying, oh, I can help with that, this is what you need to do, and it starts getting longer and longer and longer. And the people on the other side of the room are thinking, I'm bored. I've got things to do. So the team leader in that situation should say, right, call a halt, you've had your 2 minutes, take that offline, you sort it out amongst yourselves, because they're an empowered team. They can do that. So it's an opportunity to understand the progress. It's an opportunity to mark progress on a board, if you like. In the picture there, you've got a whole set of people. Okay, there's more than 7, but you've got a whole set of people standing in front of a huge whiteboard with Post-it notes on it. That's probably a Kanban board where you just take your Post-it note, say that's done, then move it from one place to another. It's a very easy visual way of showing progress. So, those 2 things, Moscow, of what do we really, really need to do, and daily stand-ups. Now, if you were to look at how this is panning out, certainly on exams, in the first few years of Prince 2, this is what was happening. This is on the right-hand diagram. It's comparing the number of Agile exams taken against Prince 2 exams. Agile is vastly overtaking Prince 2 if you compare the early years of Prince 2 with the earlier years of Agile. So this is very definitely the place to be. And the number of exams, I say, doubling year on year. These were statistics taken from the exam board themselves. So a quick mention about the exams itself. There is a foundation exam. That comes at the end of the 3rd day of this training course, because this is a 4-day training course. But I've got to say, it's nowhere near as intensive as the Prince 2. If you've been on the Prince 2 course recently, that's pretty hard work. But this isn't as intensive. So at the end of day 3, you've got foundation. It's 60 questions. You've got an hour. You need to get 50% to pass, and it's a multi-choice. Pick 1 from 4. On the 4th day, we would then do the practitioner exam. Again, there's like 60 questions focused on 4 main topics. You've got 2 hours to do that one, and again, it's a 50% pass. A couple of public courses coming up. We've got one in November in Edinburgh, one in February in Glasgow, but if you need me to come to you, I'm sure we can organise that. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this Python project session about Agile project management. Have we got any questions? I'll now pass this back to Paul, and he can finish off and field the questions. Back to you, Paul.
Well, thanks, Ray. I think that was very interesting and engaging. I have to say, one of the things I really got from it was, before these presentations, I I'm a Prince person at heart, and I used to think that Agile was a challenger and things. And having listened to Ray a couple of times, this has really explained to me that Agile and Prince 2 work side by side and complement each other. So I'm going to open it to questions in a moment. Just while I'm doing that, Ray, I've just got one question that maybe you could answer while I'm opening up the lines, which is, you mentioned that Agile could be used for government projects, and I think that UK government is quite keen. I'm talking about central government here. Westminster government is quite keen on Agile at the moment. Do you know anything, or can you say anything about that?
Only that if they've got a deadline to make, perhaps a forthcoming election, maybe, they will be very focused on hitting a date.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I can see the. I never thought about how the political things drive it as well, but yeah, I can certainly see that. All right. Well, the lines are now open. If anybody wants to come in with a question, please feel free. You can also, if you don't want to do an audio question, just fire one in on the chat, and I'll relay it to everybody. So the floor is yours. Right, Ray, I've got a question coming in on text. This is from Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Do you have any suggestions on how to move away from the idea of features defining success towards delivering a solution that works but can be built upon? And what Stephen is saying is he thinks it's a question of how to get people who are rooted in waterfall to move to a more agile way of thinking.
I think there the idea would be to look at those features, to say to look at the whole project, to say let's break it down into 10 elements, and say we will deliver that, and the point of that is that it reaps the benefits. So I think if you can tie the feature to a definable benefit for the organisation, then hopefully they can see that it was worth doing that particular feature. If you can't tie a benefit or a visible benefit back to a feature, then why are you doing it in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that helps. Any other questions? All right, another text one. Michael, do you think that the Agile versus Prince 2 thing is just a matter of perception?
So just a matter of what?
Perception.
Perception.
Yeah.
There is a lot of similarity. Because Prince 2 says it's a management methodology and it doesn't impose any particular methods on the suppliers. So in the management structure, it stops at team manager. Those team members exist in a Prince 2 project, but Prince 2 method doesn't tell you anything of how to deal with them or what they should do. Agile project management is giving some extra tools, like Moscow, like the daily stand-up. They're giving extra tools and extra documents to allow that team to work in a smarter, more efficient way.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Any more? Everybody's texting today. Okay, Sheila, just a course question. I think I can answer some of this. Sheila is making the point, did you say it's 4 or 5 days for the Agile Practitioner course? I think I can answer that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you say it's a 4-day class, isn't it, Ray? It's
a 4-day class. The first 3 days take you to foundation level, the final day polishes and gets to practitioner level. It's a 4-day course.
Okay, and is that, I mean, people will be used to, if they've done something like Prince 2, they'll be used to doing sort of doing the practitioner exam in the morning. Is it like that on Agile, or are you working on day 4 and then finish the exam in the afternoon?
You work on the 4th day. We work through a past paper, analysing it, pulling it all to bits, so people get used to the style of question. They also get used to how to apply what they've learned on the first 3 days. And then the actual real practitioner is a 2-hour exam that's taken in the afternoon, sort of mid-afternoon onwards.
Okay. And I certainly appreciate the bit when you said it's less intensive than the Prince 2 course.
There's still homework, but not as much.
All right, good. And Sheila, the other question you asked, which I can tell you, is how many people, what's the maximum number on the course? And the answer is 12. Advantage Learning is not a pack-em-in type of training provider. So you won't come on our courses and be sat at the back of a room with 25 people. We limit our practitioner courses to 12 people for quality reasons. And that's so, you get the chance to ask questions and you can feel engaged with, involved with what's going on. And also Ray can keep an eye on you and make sure that you're keeping up and you get time with Ray. So no more than 12 on the course. Right, any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Does the course cover sprint planning and recommendations for duration on each sprint?
Okay, yes, I can take that one. We're talking terminology, because Scrum will talk about sprints, where DSDM talks about time box. It's the same thing. It's the same idea. Just like in the Scrum guide, they recommend a month for a sprint, DSDM also recommends a month for a time box. So, yes, part of the course does talk about how you would plan a time box. It takes information from a prioritized requirements list and says, those are the items that we're going to develop in this particular time box, which is exactly the same as in a Scrum environment where you'd be taking things from the backlog and creating a sprint backlog. It's just terminology, but it's the same idea.
Thanks.
All right. Any last questions before we close it down? I'm going to take that as a no. So I will just say thank you to everybody for your time. Again, sorry about the short delay getting us going. This meeting is also being recorded, so we'll let you know where you can access the recording if you want to share that with anybody. And we'll follow up with you in due course. So just to me to say thank you very much, Ray, for a very interesting presentation. I know for me that's clarified quite a few things. And we'll look forward to speaking to everybody in the near future. Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.